So I'm excited to introduce our next speaker, Areiona King. She is with BikeWalkKC, Safe Routes to School. So please help me welcome Areiona.
All right. How's everybody doing? We had a good lunch. I'm so excited to talk to you all about Safe Routes to School and what's happening in Wyandotte County. That's home, and I'm very fortunate to be able to do work that literally impacts the community. So, good things. This is the logo for Safe Routes to School. That CPST behind my name simply means Child Passenger Safety Technician, which means I know how to install car seats. So there's that. All right, so how this will go is I will basically give an overview of what Safe Routes to School is. We've kind of danced around it for the last 2 days, but more specifically, we'll talk about what that looks like in Wyandotte County. So this is a collaborative Safe Routes to School between the Unified Government Public Works Department, the Public Health Department at the Unified Government, and then BikeWalkKC. Over the past 4 to 5 years, we've been able to get almost 3 miles of sidewalk constructed throughout Wyandotte County. And currently we are operating under a federal grant through KDOT. Can you all still hear me if I'm like right here? Move it over, okay, is that better? All right, wonderful. Currently we have roughly 14 schools involved with the program. That doesn't necessarily mean all of them have, is this the clicker? All of them have active walking programs, but we have some type of capacity influence that we're involved with them, and it just may look different from school to school, but we'll talk about that. And then Wyandotte County is composed of 2 school districts. USD 500 is KCK, and USD 202 is Turner School District. So we are fully supported. We have the superintendent's support, and it's wonderful when you can go from kind of knocking on the doors of these schools to the superintendent telling the principal, this is what's coming into your school next, and so you all need to get on board. And it's definitely a show for the progress that the program has made over the years. So as Joe Blankenship explained yesterday, we do, just like Missouri Safe Routes to School, operate under the 6 E's, which are education, encouragement, engineering, enforcement, evaluation, and equity. We know that the circumstances around each school and each community looks different. Like Wesley said, Wyandotte County is very diverse. So what we're walking into looks completely different at every school. Maybe. All right, so this is a little background even further. The program started operating with the Unified Government around 2007, started with school evaluations, and the first set of sidewalks was done around 2010 at Hazel Grove. Is that correct, Maggie? All right, in Wyandotte County they were done. So again, that's our collaborative main here. And this picture is awesome. This was at a walking school day. The entire school participated at William Allen White. They all walked to school together. And then on the next slide, these are our goals. First and foremost, we want to encourage active and healthy lifestyles, but we know that that doesn't simply look like going to the school and saying, hey, you guys should walk. Wouldn't it be fun to walk home from school together? It doesn't look like that. So we have to take the time to really analyze what we're dealing with. No one's gonna walk if they don't feel safe to do so. So we need to look at the barriers that are happening. When you think about kids walking to school, they're not walking at 11 a.m. or 10 a.m. They're walking when it's busy, when other buses are coming, when other cars are dropping off their children. And I'm sure we see in our own neighborhoods how pick up and drop off traffic can just be chaotic and dangerous for students to navigate through. So we really take our time to look at that and analyze that when we make these suggestions to continue the program. And of course, community involvement is crucial. And then the program really, like I said, helps reduce traffic congestion. If kids are walking to school, then mom doesn't have to drive her car. We'll say 10 moms don't have to get in the car to drive their students to school. And then maybe there'll be 3 or 4 less buses as well going to school every day if kids are walking together. So this is kind of our Safe Routes to School roadmap of how we go about making this happen. Again, like I said, it looks different at every school, every level, but we make initial outreach to the school. whether that looks like getting in touch with the PE teacher or a nurse, we just try to seek out someone at the school that will essentially listen to what our program is about. And we go from there and engage, meet with the team. And when we get face-to-face with those schools, Lydiana, let me back up a bit. Lydiana LeBoy is the city traffic engineer for Wyandotte County. And so she's the project manager for this. And her primary goal when we walk into these schools is to know if you could have the city's ear on whatever issue is happening in your neighborhood, what would it be? What would you tell the city to change? And so then it spirals into, well, we need to fix this, and we don't have sidewalks there, and it's wonderful, but our goal really is to see what do you all need to feel safer. So it goes on to conduct observations. We come during arrival and dismissal at the school and kind of take an analysis of what's happening, what chaos is there, so that we can address that before we send these kids out walking. Let's make sure that we're setting the pretense of doing so safely. And then when we move on from there, when we can make some suggestions and say, hey, it might be helpful to your traffic flow if you move your buses to the back of the building. Have you ever considered having parents go to the left instead of allowing them to go both directions on this street? Maybe that would smooth out the traffic flow and make it safer for, again, the kids to walk. And then from there, we start off with usually a walking Wednesday or a walk to school day. Annually, the city participates in a metro-wide international walk to school day. And from there, we seek a champion that is willing to commit to carrying out the program. And that walking school bus simply looks like getting all of the kids that live within a walking vicinity of the school, getting them to walk together, essentially. Either it's up to the discretion of the champion, but whether that be walk to school together in the mornings or walk home after school in the afternoons. So once we find that champion that's willing to say, hey, I'm on board, I see why this is important, and I want to get these kids walking, and then from there it kicks off at least once a week. Some schools do 4 times a week, and then we even have one case where they walk every single day. So it really just comes down to that champion's interest in making that happen. And so what challenges do we face? Like Wesley said, how do we get them to say yes? We've had that conversation, like we're expanding to this school and that, and he's like, that's great. How are you getting them to come back? And we simply just have to find someone that's just as passionate as everyone else here in this room. A lot of times we find a champion that, oh, I like to walk, I'm a cyclist, I like to walk in my neighborhood, and I wish these kids could do so safely without having to worry about cars or trash and glass, just whatever that obstacle may be. Dogs is a lot of times the deterrent. So what other challenges do we face? Sometimes the administration changes over the school year. Maybe we had a principal that was really on board and really supportive, and then they left. And so now we have to kind of start from ground up sometimes. The same thing happens with staff members, staffing capacity. Sometimes they have all the time. They have a lot on their plate, and so sometimes this just feels like one more thing. And then, of course, it comes with self-motivation, continuity, and then there's that balance between leaving you at liberty to kind of take this on and take ownership of doing it, and then making sure, like, hey, are you walking every week? Like, are you all actually doing this? And so this is our walking school bus checklist of what would make a successful program. That school parent community support is crucial. Parents have to trust you with their kids. They already don't feel safe letting them walk as it is, so they want to know that we're doing so safely. And then again, the same partnerships that we spoke of before. Another incentive that really allows us to have champion consistency is we've been able to supply a stipend to those champions, and essentially it's to incentivize to mobilize. We've seen that that's been a great help in continuing the program and really getting the champions to come back and commit. So again, these are different community engagement options. And this is how our goals align with the overall vision of the unified government. So it allows us to know that at some level, everything that we're doing with our program touches on one of these here. A lot of our neighborhoods have vacant homes. And so we had one school, they said, hey, very close to our school, we have weeds that are, waist high to the kids, and people they don't feel safe walking past that house. It's the scary house. Well, we've been able to have those partnerships with the unified government and reach out to reach out to parking and different organizations that'll go in and fix those things. So we can say, hey, there's animals running around in this neighborhood and the kids don't feel safe. Can you send animal control out to, take a look at that area, that neighborhood that might have otherwise fallen on deaf ears if the principal would have tried to call 311. So we're able to kind of just eliminate that middleman and really get things done for the school. And so this is my favorite part, right? And I have to do it really fast, but that's okay. So how we connect the dots, how does this all work together with the socio-ecological model that we've been talking about these past 2 days, right? So this is when I get to do like my Sophia Petrillo, Golden Girls, like picture it, Wyandotte County. So we'll just take a couple examples that really happen with these schools, but see how it paints the picture. You have a school that may be interested in walking, but they don't have sidewalks, and they have a circumstance where, we don't have the capacity to do this program, so we'd love to do it. We think it's a great idea, but we just don't have the staff capacity. Well, RDA, which is Rosedale Development Association, they participate in you all's walking club every week. How about we just go about making them the primary lead on that, and that way that takes that stress off of the staff, but you know that you have someone coming in that'll implement the program day to day. And again, we're just talking about 30 extra minutes onto a day of walking these kids home. Not to say it's that simple, everyone has lives, but again, it's as much of a, commitment obstacle, if you will, as people want to make it. So say again, we have neighborhoods that the dogs are more prevalent on trash day, and that is our walking school bus day, and our kids just don't feel safe with these extra dogs in the neighborhood when we're trying to walk. Okay, well, let's call, animal control and get someone out there to take care of that. And it's the same with the community policing department. We're able to send them a list of our routes, say, hey, these are our schools, these are our neighborhoods. Can you send someone out on these days to just do a little extra patrol in these areas? And what does that help us do? Well, it sends a presence, first of all. Not only do you see kids just like this walking down the street, which may make you think twice about doing some things that you shouldn't near a school or near a neighborhood. But then having the community police involved like that, someone's gonna slow down. They're not gonna drive as fast on that street if they see that a cop car is parked, along the route. So we just find these ways to connect all of the dots. Walk Wyco and Jersey Creek that Wesley briefly mentioned with Broderick Davis, they have walking clubs that go through Jersey Creek. They have men that are part of these walking clubs daily. Well, would you be willing to send some of your men to this elementary school and be a male presence and walk with these kids? Because this principal has expressed that, hey, a lot of these kids do not have a male influence, and we just can't control them. So we just find those ways to seek out community partners. Caring for Kids KC is another one that has been a huge help. They bring community resources to the table, but the principal can say, hey, I have this walk-in program, and I just have one teacher supervising 25 kids. I need some help. Can you bring in some volunteers to help out with that? Yes, we can. So we're able to just kind of connect those dots. The SOAR initiative has to do with blight in KCK, and since we're dealing with neighborhoods full of vacant homes, we're able to kind of place priority around what homes need to be demolished or it's simply looked at a little further based on these walking clubs. So that is, I believe I only had maybe one more, how we evaluate success. Once there were no sidewalks and now there are, the idea if you built them, they'll come. This was actually a rainy day and kids were still walking. I think we forget kids have to get to school every day. So it's not as difficult as sometimes we make it seem to just get them to walk. They've got to do it anyway. These are all of some of the participating schools that have active walk-in programs and others that we're just involved with in different capacities. And this is a special school. They started off with just that many kids and give it 2 semesters, and the entire school is walking, and every staff member is on a rotation that they participate. So it's not just this one champion responsible 5 days a week. You've got everyone involved, all hands on deck, and really pushing forward that community. And this is another case of we had a champion who left, and we were kind of like, oh goodness, what's going to happen with the program from there? We were fortunate enough to find another champion to step in and continue right where they left off. So those kids still have someone to walk with them. All right, and that is all. Thank you all so much for your time.